We have loved hearing from our friends and listeners, so this week is really special to us. We get to answer some of the questions you all have been asking us about our relationship, parenting, and our homesteading journey. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the Olive Shoots Family Podcast, where we talk about family and parenting, homesteading, and the things God is leading us towards. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Brittany. We've been married for 3 years, have one little boy, and just got our first piece of land where we plan to build and start our homestead. We are passionate about the family unit and getting back to the basics of the way God created us to live. We have big dreams and are learning what it looks like to pursue those dreams while first trusting God's leading.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. This week is really exciting because we get to answer some of the questions that you guys have asked us. And the first question that we're going to talk about today is just the story of how we first met and our first date. So, babe, what was your perspective of our first date and how we met?
Yeah, I had graduated college in December, and this was, I guess, mid-January about. And I had been talking with my co-small group leader, and we were just talking. I mean, I think I mentioned something like, I figured I was going to meet somebody in college, and like now I'm graduated and still single. And she was like, I might know somebody that you'd like. And I was like, huh, okay. And like, I had not really dated that much at all because my perspective kind of was not wanting to waste time, and just like when I met somebody that I thought I could see myself marrying, then I would date them, and I hadn't met that person at all. So she said that she would message this guy, and I was like, I mean, the worst he can say is no, and I'll probably never see him if he says no, so go for it. And so she kind of like ended up setting up sort of a blind date, which was like,
not sort of, it was absolutely,
I mean, yes,
a blind
but
date.
We both knew the person, so it wasn't like we were meeting up with it was a stranger from our perspective, but it was somebody through a mutual friend. Right. It wasn't like I just was going to go meet with some random person I never heard of. But that was like definitely way out of anything characterized by what I would normally do. And so that was definitely a God thing. And yeah, so I think then he texted me and we met up at a coffee shop and talked for like 3 hours or something crazy. And that's how our first date went.
Yeah, I think, it was such a good thing. And I remember looking back on it now, we laugh at it because we both, got out of the car. I saw her walking up, and so I walked up to her and just gave her a hug around her shoulder. And then we walk in and talk for hours and hours. And it's funny now, like looking back on it, she's like, what in the world? Why did you do that? You just came up and hugged me out of nowhere. I had no idea who you were or anything about you. And so she laughs at me for that, today. But, in that first date, we talked about even a lot of the things that we're doing now and that we want to do with our family. Of even, we had just met 2 hours earlier, and we were already talking about adoption and fostering and where did we want to live. And it's just crazy to think like what God has done in our story since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was like 24 or so, and you were like 26. So we were both at the point of like, we're not just hanging out. We're like we were getting to know each other with the intention of very quickly figuring out if this was something somebody we wanted to continue to hang out with or not. And so a lot of our questions were really like, well, it wasn't just like, what do you like to do? It like started off as that, but then it was like, where do you see yourself like doing in the future? Or, I mean, I remember like telling them, my hope is to one day be a stay-at-home mom, but like I'm teaching right now. And we talked about kids and just it would have been, if we were not on the same page on anything, then it probably would have ended right there, just because of how intentional our conversation was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we left that first date planning a second one of playing basketball together.
Yeah.
Because I was a basketball coach, and he was like, "Can we go play basketball?" I was like, "Yeah." So we left that one and had planned our second one, and we were engaged barely less than a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Got married 6 months after that. So
yeah, which kind of leads into the next question, which is, as a married couple, how do y'all keep each other accountable and push each other every day to grow closer to the Lord? And I think when I hear that question, it just reminds me so much of our family mission that we talked about in a couple episodes earlier. In our first one, which is to know and trust the Lord every day, more and more every day. And I think that's one of the things that we do to really remind each other to grow closer to the Lord and to keep each other accountable is we try to keep that big picture of what is God doing in our lives, where is he leading us, and what has he put on our hearts. And I think both of us recognize and can recite our family mission. If anyone were to ask us what that family mission is, we know it and we can recite it. But when we're in the minute-to-minute daily life, when we're figuring out things or going through things, that it can sometimes be difficult to put what we're dealing with in the moment in the greater context of what the Lord is doing through our family, in the big picture. And so I think we've been really good about just reminding each other that, hey, this is really hard, and this is something that we have to figure out on how to do it. But this really does fit in with exactly what the Lord has been calling us to, and exactly what he has been leading us to. And so just reminding each other of what that big picture is for us, even in those difficult small moments.
Yeah. And I would say we've been doing a Bible reading plan together. We've mentioned that. I mean, on our own, but we're trying to do it at the same rate. And that's been something that we've been kind of like, not like harping on each other, but just like gentle, hey, did you do your reading plan? Are you caught up? And then every once in a while we'll just have some, what have you been learning about lately? Or what have you noticed where we started just in Genesis, and now we're just finally started Joshua. So we've gone through the Torah, I guess, and just reading it through every day. We've had, I think, at least 2 that I can think of, maybe a couple more, just intentional conversations that have lasted quite a while of like, what just reading it through this time, what did you notice? And so that's been neat to be able to keep each other accountable in the Word, but also, since we're reading the same thing, to be able to have conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else that comes to mind is just, you were kind of just talking about it, but just like whenever either of us is having a really hard day, like if I'm complaining about, I don't know, like you said, forgetting the bigger picture. If you have a really bad day at work, or not even a bad day, but it's just like I'm doing the same thing again, and it just kind of gets old every once in a while, like we do. I do that at home.
Just
like,
how
I'm just
how
doing
work can
laundry
be
all over again.
Yeah, it can just be difficult in general.
Yeah, just doing the same thing of like,
Mm-hmm.
just kindly and gently reminding each other of, like, this is what we wanted to do. We're where we wanted to be. He'll say, like, you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, this is, the work you're doing with our kids is meaningful. And, I mean, same thing with him. Like, the work that you're doing to make money for our family is very, we're very grateful for it. And it has purpose. And just reminding each other that what we're doing in that day-to-day, and then zooming out to the big picture, because I think we both have moments every now and then where we're just like so focused in on the small detail that's frustrating us at the time that we lose perspective.
Yeah. I also think just our fears also, when those fears creep up, that to remind each other that we trust the Lord in those things. And I think there's been moments, just as a mom, where things are happening with Emerson, or things are happening with, our little kid, where I come in and I say, hey, Jesus loves our kids even more than we do. And if that's true, and he's a good God, then no matter what happens, he's trustworthy and he's good and he loves us and he cares for us and he's going to walk us through this difficult thing that we're going through with as parents. Yeah. And for me, I think you come along me and my fear is not so much centered around our kids, but as provider of the family. And so my fears creep in when I try to do and just try to almost force things to happen so that I can feel like I'm providing. And you come in and you say, you know what, the Lord is the one who provides, and he's going to provide for us in this way as well. And so just as the fears of life come in, that we encourage one another and point each other back, that the Lord is the one who is really the one to take care of us and lead us and guide us and provide for us and all of these things. And not that we do nothing in those situations, not that we just sit back and are lazy and do nothing, but that ultimately the action is on our part, but the result is on his part. And so just to trust in those things.
Yeah, and I think it's really beneficial, and in that sometimes I'll even come and I'm like, I know that this is not from God. I know that this is, but it's still bothering me. Like, I know that it's there, and I'm like in that in between of trying to see the big picture, but also just struggling in the moment. And so we both know that God is provider. I don't have to tell you that, but in the moment, it's not helpful for me to jump on your train. I mean, it's not like I just don't listen to you and don't relate to it at all, but you need to be pointed back, not just me to jump in and us both be in the pity party together. And that, I think that's just a really cool part of marriage, of we both know the truth and the right answer most of the time, but sometimes we need to hear it from the other person to be reminded and to be encouraged to move on and not just sit in that negativity and not just sit in that bad feeling or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think, and then finishing up with praying for each other.
Yeah.
That as you encourage each other and go through those things with each other, just, it's something as simple as, okay, let's just pray about that real quick. Let's take 15 seconds and pray about it. And it doesn't have to be some long, elaborate prayer, but just pray. And easier said than done sometimes, but it's also not difficult. So just make it a point to try and do that. Have your allergies been acting up? Every year when the seasons change from winter to spring and from summer to fall, my allergies start bothering me. Earthly's Sinus Saver is an herbal tincture that provides natural support during allergy season. It works best when taken consistently and helps to give you relief from sneezes, sniffles, sinus pressure, watery eyes, and all those other annoying allergy symptoms. Sinus Saver uses the power of herbs to help clear the body of excess histamines and calm allergic reactions. My family is thankful for this product, knowing we are fueling our bodies with natural things to help us feel better versus the typical over-the-counter medicines that oftentimes have other side effects. I also love that it's safe for our little one. If you're interested in Earthly Sinus Saver or any of their other products, click the link in the show notes.
Yeah, and another question that we got was how to protect intimacy and date nights with having kids. And I would say that this is something you definitely just have to make time for in a completely different way, obviously, because you have kids running around and you have kids every night for date night, or before you have kids, you can literally be like, wow, let's go out to eat last minute, or let's go to a movie, or whatever. And date nights are they don't have to be as planned. They can just be spontaneous. And I think they still can be, but it might not be that big elaborate go out somewhere. It might be after the kids go to bed, let's watch a movie together, or let's play a game, or let's just hang out and like do something fun and not just go to bed, or not just sit on our phones or whatever. Like, I think you definitely have to make time for it. And I think something that we have, like date night wise, planning with people to babysit, like do that intentional time of planning ahead every once in a while to be able to get out of the house together without the kids and go to dinner. And I think something we did like pretty early. I mean, Emerson was maybe a month old, maybe.
I think less than a month.
And yeah, because it was right around Valentine's Day. Because my parents were up and they were like, go to lunch, and I was like, I don't want to leave Emerson, but they were like, we'll watch him, like it'll be fine. And we were gone for like not even 2 hours. We literally just went to lunch. But it was the first time we had been out without him, in 3 weeks, which is not that long, but it was good. And it was time to just like kind of debrief on like how it was, and just like how we were doing with having a baby. And I think that first initial, like, being intentional about having that time out, whether it's literally an hour or 30 minutes if that's all you can handle, or 2 hours where you ask your parents or somebody, a close friend, to come watch your kid, even though they're just born, just to have that time just to reconnect again after you've been so intentionally pouring into the baby for day and night for weeks.
Yeah. I think the obvious thing that we think about when it comes to intimacy is sex, and just plan on that not coming back right away, immediately after having kids, for obvious reasons. But that intimacy can come through other ways. Intimacy can come in other means for those early weeks and early months, and to just try to make time for that in different ways. And I think when we think about the time we have throughout the day, when so much of that time is going to be spent on taking care of baby, cleaning up, taking care of each other, just all the things that come with having a baby, that you make time for what you prioritize. And so I remember those first early weeks, like I still wanted time to just sit down and relax and play a video game or watch a show or do something that was just where I could just kind of zone out and not in a bad way, but just relax and not have any responsibility or pressure or anything in those moments. But those quickly faded because we needed that time together. And so just making time for the things that you prioritize. If you're going to prioritize video games, then you'll find time in the day to play video games. But if you make time to prioritize cooking a meal for your wife because she's just tired, and feeding a baby 6 times a day is hard, or just making time to talk with each other, and even talking about things that aren't baby related for a little while, and just giving a break in those conversations. Or even, when both of you guys are exhausted, that you just go and you cuddle with one another, and you just get close and take a nap with each other. But just in whatever that looks like, you're going to make time for what you prioritize. And so if intimacy with your spouse is something you prioritize, then you will have time for it throughout your day.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, as they get older, as your kids get older, as the baby gets older, I mean, Emerson's only barely over 1 now, and it's definitely easier to plan for intimacy and to plan for date nights, just knowing that there's more of a schedule, or you kind of have gotten an idea of when he's going to go to bed, when you're going to, like, when the naps are and that kind of thing. Not that it's always exact, but it's a lot more predictable as they get older and the routine is established to plan for those things and to be intentional. And like I said, it doesn't have to be some extravagant thing. Like, it's those, even if it's an hour after they go to bed before you go to bed kind of thing. Like, that's still, making that time is still very much worth it, and just allows you to have that space and time together without the distraction of the kids. And not even just distraction, but it's just a completely different element, obviously. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. So the next question we got was, what do you want y'all's first big homesteading project to be? And I think the biggest one, the first biggest one, is building our home, building our house. So we're in the very early stages of kind of scoping out our land and figure out where we want to build our house at. We've kind of narrowed it down to two different areas.
I think that the homesteading, like, obviously we say this podcast is about family, parenting, and homesteading, and we haven't really talked about homesteading a whole lot because we're kind of like just starting it. It's a dream, and it's the direction we want to go, but we also realize it's years in the making, and it's not just we don't have the funds to just start every type of homesteading project or the time all at one moment. And so we hope that as we are able to do more projects that we will be talking about it more on the podcast. But that's kind of why it hasn't been a big point of conversation. It's just because we're getting started. And another thing that we're working on right now that is probably the big thing that we are actually doing is we are kind of not a huge garden, but a bigger garden than I guess in the past 2 years we've done like 5-gallon buckets. So we've had like 5 plants, and this year we're doing 3, maybe 4 raised beds that are decent size, and we're gonna have like more than 5 plants for sure. Like lots of different.
Yeah, we already have like 15. So
lots of different vegetables, and we're really excited about that. We started the seeds indoors a month or so ago, and lettuce even earlier than that. And then we under a grow light, and then we've transplanted them outside, and we've been enjoying lettuce already, and we're getting close to transplanting the rest of our plants like in this coming week. Mm-hmm. And with that, I'll probably need help. We'll be learning just how to preserve that food and the extras that we get, whether we're freezing it or canning it, or turning it into spaghetti sauce.
Dehydrating it.
Yep, dehydrating it. So that'll be something this fall, and throughout the summer even, that we are experimenting with and learning. And do you want to talk about the book that we kind of have been reading through to get started?
Yeah, so we're kind of gone through a couple like homestead, farmstead type books that we're reading through, but one in particular, it is basically like how to plan out your family garden, and so one of the main principles behind it is, as you are cooking your meals and prepping your food throughout the week, just take note of what you eat, and for a month or two, track what you eat and the ingredients you use, and begin determining how many plants you need, how many vegetables, how many fruits you need to maintain the meals that you already eat. And so it's not like you're starting from scratch. Like we're just recording what we already buy from the store, what we already eat, and just kind of tracking the meals that we make. So when we make spaghetti, we know that we have spaghetti sauce that uses tomatoes, that uses basil, that uses all these different things. Yeah. And so we're able to just note that. And so when it comes time to figuring out how many tomato plants we need, then we base it off of the data that we've already collected making our meals. And so we can kind of gauge, okay, we need to plant 15 tomato plants in order to can and preserve and make enough spaghetti sauce for us to have spaghetti throughout the year. Yeah. Or whatever that is.
And the book is super helpful because there's tables of like, fill this out, and then it'll say about this many plants will produce about this much okra. About this many okra plants will produce about this much okra. and knowing, well, we eat about that much okra in half a year, so we need to double that or whatever it is. And so that's been super helpful. And I think another thing that's been really beneficial, that's actually been kind of enjoyable and thought-provoking, because I didn't know it, was just the companion plant, like what's good to plant together and what's good to probably not put right next to each other. And since we're doing 3 different raised beds, we've just kind of been planning that out of, well, we're not going to put whatever these 2 are that shouldn't be together, we're not going to put those in the same bed. We're going to put one here and one in the other one, and just planting those flowers and herbs that are supposed to be with certain vegetables that help them be more successful. So that's something that's been helpful in the book that I would not have even known about had we not. But yeah, we're excited about that and getting to enjoy fresh produce throughout the summer, as well as save money, hopefully throughout the year, if we grow as much as we're hoping to grow.
Yeah, I think another big thing, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, so if you have something to add on to this, throw it out there. But I think one of the things about homesteading that really appeals to us is that you're taking what is around you. So normally that's, taking your land, taking the soil, taking your land to raise animals on and whatnot. You're taking what's around you and you're using it to provide for your own home and your own family. I think that's the kind of the core principle of homesteading is using what you have to take care of your family and provide for your family. And so I think in our context, just being at a rental house and being where we're at now, our raised beds are what we can do here. And so in the gardening aspect, we're not going to have this massive garden that we hope to have in the future, just because it's not practical here. But I think for us, one thing that we are doing to practice our homesteading is gaining skills and learning skills. And so even though the garden isn't the size that we hope it will be one day, we're gaining the skills of what it looks like to tend a garden and to grow our own food. And I think that's something that I have been blessed with through my current job, is just learning construction skills, and even taking up projects around the house we live in now, of doing home projects to improve this house, and learning how to do those things, and having the ability to step up and take those on myself. So when when the dishwasher breaks, instead of calling someone right away, it's spending the time to take it apart and figure out how it works and put it back together. And when it comes to doing projects in the attic, to going in and crawling around in the insulation and fixing the electrical, just doing those things by myself so that I can gain the skills, and that as we together are just figuring out what gardening looks like, what it looks like to transform and landscape the home that we're at, and even just planning out and dreaming of what our home is going to be like, the layout of our home, the floor plan, all these different things, that we're just building skills. And I think that's a large part of homesteading that's often overlooked, that I think we're able to do now. But as far as the big homesteading project that we're looking forward to, I think it's building our home and starting our garden.
Yeah, for sure. And one more thing that we're kind of, just starting, that we're kind of partnering with my parents, and we got some meat chickens with them. And so we have, between the two of us, I think they have like 60 plus chickens that we're going to raise over the next few months. And then we're going to help them with the whole processing and all that. And so that's something that obviously in the future we hope to have chickens on our own land, but it's something we're able to partner with them right now, and learn the skills and start to get meat chicken, fresh chicken, not fresh, but I mean, it will be very fresh, but, grown the way we want to raise them. And even though we're not able to do it on our land right now.
Yeah.
So that's something else we're excited about, I think.
Yeah.
Is your baby or toddler teething? I'm always looking for natural products to give my baby instead of over-the-counter medicines that often contain artificial colors, flavors, added sweeteners, and other non-essential ingredients. Earthly's Teeth Tamer has been great. It's made from whole cloves and catnip, which works to reduce pain and swelling and provides a feeling of calmness and relaxation. My baby loves the taste of it, and I can tell it gives him relief. That's a win-win in my book. It's even effective for adults. It can help with pain from cavities, root canals, wisdom teeth removal, braces, and more. It's non-GMO, made in the USA, and made with 100% organic ingredients. If you're interested in Teeth Tamer, click the link in the show notes and check out the other amazing Earthly Wellness products while you're at it.
The last question that we are going to talk about this time is, what's a routine or rhythm that you have implemented since having your son that has helped strengthen you as a couple? And I think the first thing that came to mind, and I think we had both tried to make it a routine before, so it's not like we just started it after having our son, but just having quiet times became more important to do that in the morning before Emerson wakes up as much as we could. And Nathan does it very well. He usually gets up earlier than I do, and so he's able to spend that time, and I try to most of the time get up earlier than him, because we just know that the chance of it happening later on in the day once you have kids is just gets more and more difficult. So planning that early time to get up, even though it may be too early, and I know, like, right when he was born, obviously I was not waking up before him because I was waking up all night long. And sleep is important also for our bodies. So it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, especially in those early weeks whenever you're not getting much sleep. Then it might look like while you're feeding your son, or while they're taking a nap, or in those down moments, just being intentional about it throughout the day. But as they sleep later and they're at least sleeping through the night, making that point to get up early has strengthened us as a couple, because when we start our day with Jesus, it makes our day together better. Yeah. And so I think that's definitely something that has been reinforced and that we've gotten better at since having our son.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that that we were just talking about this, that has just kind of been a normal part of life for us, but we realized maybe it's not normal for everyone else, is that we just end nights after we lay Emerson down for bed. We put him in his crib, he goes to bed, and then we just spend another, half hour or so talking, or finishing up house chores or things like that, doing that together, and then going to bed together. And so we're spending that time. We're spending that time with one another. We're ending the day together. We're close with each other, physically close with each other. Just holding each other before we go to sleep for the night. And so just ending those nights together at the same time, going to bed at the same time, and it's
as often as we can. There's definitely been nights where you've had to finish up something for work.
Right.
So it's not like a ritual every single night, but I would say most nights it's definitely something that we do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that it's kind of rare when we don't do that. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of it's just become normal for us to do. And that's something that really helps us as well, and that we look forward to every night.
Definitely. And something else that I thought of whenever I read this question was, obviously I'm staying at home, and so it's my responsibility to take care of the house and to, prepare meals for the most part, and do our laundry and just do the normal household chores and take care of our son. That's majority my responsibility. But Nathan's been really good about sharing those with me. He doesn't just say, well, you're home, so you're doing it, or, that's your job. And that's been something that since having him, like, he has even more consistently, he does dinner dishes. Like, I do the dishes throughout the day, so it's not like he has every single dish from all day. But after dinner, I usually cook, and then whenever we're done eating, he cleans up the kitchen. And that's just a way that, I don't know, it's just we're serving each other in that way. And that's definitely, when you serve your spouse, you're definitely showing love, and it makes you love them more, I think. But that's been something that I think that we've just sharing those responsibilities, even like really early on. He would help throughout the night as he could. Sometimes it was the opposite, where I'm like, I know you're going to work today, don't wake up with me, like, just give me him and then you can go back to sleep. And so, like, that's me serving him, and like knowing he has to get up early in the morning to go to work, and so I'm gonna let him sleep. And some nights he would take Emerson out into the living room when he wasn't sleeping, so that I could get some sleep, because he knew I hadn't slept. And so just sharing those responsibilities of taking care of him and of taking care of the house, even though I am at home, and a big part of that job is my responsibility. We both live there, and it's both our home, so it's not just you do it all, because that's not practical.
Yeah, I think when you have kids, that especially babies, they take so much focus and energy just to one, keep them alive, but also love them well, and it's something that is easy to do because you love your little ones so much, but it is difficult because it takes so much time and energy. And so just a rhythm that you can have as a couple is just finding those practical things of giving life and energy back to your spouse by allowing them to rest. And it's in those small things, like we said, like doing the chores, cleaning up after dinner, doing those little things that when you make time for them and when you prioritize them, you're actually saying, I love you enough in this moment to give you a break. I care for you enough in this moment that I recognize and I see that you need rest, and I'm going to provide an opportunity for you to rest and enjoy this time. And so by serving your spouse, you actually are making time to strengthen one another. And so equally with some of these other things that we've talked about, like our quiet time and going to bed at the same time, and those sorts of things, where some of those spiritual conversations, or some of the intentional conversations that are very important, sometimes just those practical day-to-day things make space for those intentional big long conversations to happen, or waking up early in the morning to happen. Because the reality is, if Brittany was left to do the dishes every night and clean up after Emerson's toys and change his diaper and get him ready for bed and do all the things that we kind of split and share, she still does most of it because she's amazing. But if she was left to do all of it, that it would be much harder for her to wake up early in the morning, to have the energy required to get up earlier and spend time in the Word. And so by serving one another, you're allowing space and time and energy for the spiritual and the intentional conversations that you need to have as a couple.
Yeah. And something that we have honestly talked about our entire marriage, but we didn't really make it super... Well, I guess we kind of have been intentional about it, but I think it's been more we've recognized it, how much more important it has been since having Emerson, and how it has strengthened us, is just prioritizing community as a couple. And I think it's beneficial to prioritize community individually as well. But whether that's a small group that you're going to together, or ours, we call them circle groups at our church, but just that group of same age, doesn't even have to be same age, but just other couples that are seeking to follow after Jesus just like you are. That has been really helpful for us as a couple, because we'll go there and sometimes we've had a hard week and we're like, yeah, we've had a hard week, and and they're praying for us, and then we're digging in the Word together, and it's just, we can go there and have had a fight on the way or been just exhausted on the way, and we're like, there's been nights where I'm like, I don't want to go, I'm tired. And then we leave there and we're like, well, it's a good thing we went. We're glad we went, like every single time. We don't ever leave our community group and think, we shouldn't have gone. And so I just think that having that community with those other couples that are going to be pointing you to Jesus in the hard times, and you're there to point them to Jesus in the hard times, because we all have those hard times, has been super helpful in like strengthening, and it's a routine that's weekly. It's not monthly. It's not, well, we'll just go when we feel like it. It's when we're able, which is most of the time, because we're going to put it pretty high up on our priority list, that we're going to go to this community group every week and be around other like-minded couples that are going to point us to Jesus. Yeah,
it's amazing how just the question of how can we be praying for you, how important and impactful that is in your life as a couple, and prioritizing those kind of relationships, that you have other people who have your back, who are thinking of you throughout the week, who are praying for you throughout the week, and are genuinely concerned and walking with you throughout
and
life.
You taking the time to actually answer that question. When they say, how can I pray for you? Be like, well, this is how, not, we're doing great, because maybe you are doing great, but there's usually always still something you can come up that you're praying about, or that you could use prayer in. Like, even when you're having a great week, there's still room for growth, and prayer is still very important and vital. So taking that time, being with a group of people that you trust enough to actually answer that question and know that they are going to pray for you. Yeah. It's not just a question that they're asking just for asking it.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Well, we hope this has been really helpful, that we have answered these questions, maybe at least somewhat helpfully or in a good way. And if you have any questions for us, we would love to do another one of these episodes again. So just send them our way if anything comes to mind, or you have any question that just sparked throughout this conversation. We'd love to hear them. So just send those to us through, how should they send that to us? Through Instagram or
Instagram Messenger, or you can even comment on post. I would still see that, but yeah, you can Instagram message or Facebook message.
Or you can email us if that's easier at Nathan@oliveshoots.co or Brittany@oliveshoots.co, either one. And we would get that there as well. So we love having this conversation and just engaging with people who are listening. So we appreciate all the questions and appreciate all of you who are listening and supporting us in this. We're praying for y'all. We hope that everything in your lives is going well, but even more importantly in that you're just seeking Jesus, and that we're just following him and walking in what he is leading us towards in our families, in our marriages, and just in seeking him personally. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.